Hey guys, real quick, today we're going to be doing, this is going to be called N, and you're going to notice why I'm going to call it N. It's going to be N, compound inequalities. We already did them, but I want to cover a couple more things. I want to go more in depth into them. And it's going to be inequalities. If you think you can solve the problems, go ahead and try and solve them first. Then check your answers and see if you got them. Now, don't forget you have to do your t-table. Student goes here, teacher goes here, and do it that way. Now, to begin with, I want you guys to go ahead and start some notes, because I do want to cover a couple things right before we start. This one's going to be very important for you guys just to know. So, whenever we talk, we already solved inequalities for the main absolute value equations. We already solved a lot of them. Absolute value equations look like this. So, you're going to have x plus 3 is equal 5, right? Those are the type of problems that we've been working on. Now, we're going to be adding our symbols for inequalities, right? And then that. All of those are going to be inequality symbols. So every time you see that one, those are going to be inequalities. Now, I want you guys to today we're only going to be focused on the top two, which if you see this inequalities right here on your problem, and I'm going to specify how they have to look. So let's go ahead and write one of the problems. Let me go ahead, pull out my stuff. And there we go. I'm already here, and I'm going to show you a little trick that we're going to be using here. So if you have an inequality, it's going to look just like this. And I want you to look at the orientation of your inequality. So we're going to have, let me erase that, ax plus b is less than c. Okay, if you have this type of inequality, meaning that your inequality, this one is looking, and it has to be very specific, it's looking at your absolute value all right. If your inequality, which is this one right here, is looking at your absolute value, then you're gonna have to write your problem like follows. So you're gonna have negative c, then you're gonna write your inequality again. You're gonna put whatever's inside of your absolute value, but now I'm gonna be taking out the lines. Remember how we did before? You're gonna take out the vertical lines, and you're just gonna write it, and you're gonna put positive c over here. That's how you're gonna have to set up the problem. It's a lot easier because once you're done with that, it's gonna help you actually set up your line graph, the ones that we're gonna be working on this week. So that's it. That's gonna be the very beginning part of everything. So that's how you're gonna have to set up the problem. Now, right now, it might not make a lot of sense, but just remember how my inequality has to look. It has to be looking at the absolute value. Okay, and then we're gonna set it up like this. Okay, that's the main thing that I want you guys to focus on. But I'm gonna go ahead and do it with you guys. So it should be relatively easy to do. Like I say, if you think you know how to do this problems, go ahead and try and do them. And then if you want to check your answers, go ahead on the video. Check it. If you get it wrong, make sure you watch the video so you know what you did wrong. Now, at this point, I'm gonna set up the problem that we're gonna be working on. Actually, before I even go and do that, whenever you have this type of inequalities, so you don't waste your time, I'm already going to tell you. So I have that. Now, if there's two different occasions. If you get a 0, meaning that is 0, and also I'm going to do another one. Oh my god. Oh my god. Let me redo that one. I just kept going up. I don't know why I cannot write today. There we go. So you see I have two different scenarios, right? I have my absolute value, this one, the first one. I have my absolute value equal to 0. Your answer is actually going to be no solution. And now, also, if your equation looks like the bottom one, in which you have a negative number in front, your answer is also going to be no solution. So if you see a problem, like whenever we're working on them, and you see those two scenarios, then your answer is going to be no solution. But remember, it has to be less than, and it has to be less than, and it has to be 0 and -1. Okay? You need to have an n compound inequality. Okay? Just, I wanted to put that out there so you know specific scenarios in which you cannot have a solution. All right, we already talked too much. Let's go ahead and do a couple problems. I'm gonna try and do 3 problems just so we can go ahead and do them. So the first problem is gonna be x plus 3 is less than or 4. Yes, perfect. Don't forget to put the absolute value right there. Now, I have to look up the first 2 scenarios. So, is it 0? No. Is it 1? No. So I can go ahead and work this problem out. So, if you remember, you can go back on the video and see. I'm going to have to separate into -4 is less than. I'm going to be taking the absolute value. So it's x plus 3 is less than 4. Okay, that's how they want us to write this type of problems. Whenever we get this type of problem, they always want us to do this. Now, once I have all this set up, all I'm going to do is I'm going to put a line right here, and I'm going to put a line right here. Okay, what I want you guys to focus on whatever I have in the inside. I have x plus 3. Now, whenever we're solving for x, there has to be nothing next to my x. Meaning, I'm actually going to have to get rid of that 3. The way that I'm going to get rid of that positive 3, I got to go ahead and do the opposite. So I'm going to go ahead and do -3. And whatever I do to the one side, I have to go ahead and do to the other. But notice what's going to happen. I have 2 different sides, right? I have the sides with a -4 and I have the sides with a +4. So I have to make sure I take out the 3 on both sides. Once I go ahead and take out the 3, you're going to notice that everything else in the inside is going to cancel, and I'm just going to have x. I'm going to rewrite my inequality, less than. Now I just have to figure out the 2 numbers on the outside. So I'm going to start over here on this side. That's the side I'm going to start on. So I have 4 and -3. If they're different signs, I'm going to subtract. So that should give me a +1 because 4 is bigger. Now, on the other side, I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to look at the 2 numbers I have. I have -4 and -3. If there's the same sign, either positive or negative, in this case, both of them are negative, right? I'm actually going to go ahead and add them. So what's 4 plus 3? 7. But because both of them are negative, my answer has to be negative. Okay, just keep that in mind. I'm going to add the 3 and the 4, but because both of them are negative, I'm actually going to go ahead and keep that negative. All right, I'm done. I already have my answer for both of them, right? So x is greater than -7, and x is less than 1. That's how you usually read it. You start from the center, and then you go to the left. Start from the center, then you go to the right. Now let's go back a little bit. That's my answer. That's straight up my answer. Now I gotta make sure I put on the number line. So I'm gonna start over here. I'm gonna do my 2 outer areas. I'm gonna do the center. There we go. I'm gonna have this one right here. It's gonna be 0. You always want 0 in the center. And then I'm gonna have to decide. I'm gonna put my 1 right here, and my -7 is supposed to be pretty far. So right there. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect. I just need to represent what I have. Now, both of my inequalities, or my inequality, if you notice, it doesn't have a line below it. That means that whenever I draw my circles on my number line, they're going to be open circles. So I'm going to go ahead and do open circle right here. And I'm going to go ahead and do open circle right here. Now, because we're talking about n, and this is every time that you get a problem like this, every time that you get a problem like this, your lines are actually going to meet in the center. So all the problems that we're going to be doing today, once I do both of my lines, I'm just going to meet in the center. And that makes sense. Because if you look at this, if you look at our answer right here, it is saying that x is greater than negative 7. So yes, I'm going to have to go this way. I'm going to put little arrows, right? X is greater. But it also says that x is smaller. So both of them are going to go and touch each other, right? And that's it. That's going to be my answer for this problem. Now let's go ahead and do another one. Let me go and scroll down on here. And let me look for another problem just so you guys can go ahead and start doing this. Okay, I like this one. This one's going to be a little longer because first of all, we have more stuff on the inside of my absolute value. So I got this plus 8. Now I'm going to go ahead and do right here. Plus 2 is less than 25. Now, this is going to be a pretty, not complicated, but it's going to be changed a little bit. So first things first, I cannot work this problem because if you notice, I have this 2 right next to my absolute value. That cannot happen. I need to have my absolute value alone so I can do the problems. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of have to fix that real quick. So in order to move the positive 2, I'm going to have to do negative 2 on both sides. What that's going to happen is going to cancel that out. And now I have negative 5x plus 8. It's less than 23. Okay? That's going to be my first thing that I got to do. Correct? So let's go ahead and look at this problem. Now what we have to do from here is that we have to set up a problem, right? So I'm going to have negative 23 is less than negative 5x plus 8 less than 23. Okay, that's how I'm going to set up my problem. Now that I have it all set up, all I have to do is solve for x on the inside right here. I'm going to put my both lines. And you're going to notice I'm going to be working kind of like on both sides first. Okay, so negative 8. It's negative 8. Negative 8. All right, my 8's on the inside cancel out. And I end up with negative 5x is less than. And it's less than over here. Now, if my signs are different, because I'm going to work on this side first, I have 23 minus 8 is going to be what? 15, correct? I think so. If I'm doing my math correctly, yes. Now, on the other side, both of them, if you notice, both of them are negative, so I'm going to go ahead and add them. So I'm going to get what? 31, I believe? Yes, but also remember, because both of them are negative, I'm going to have to go ahead and put a negative in front. Now, at this point, I almost got my answer already all done. I'm going to go ahead and do bye-bye. 5 on both sides. Okay, whenever I divide by a negative, you remember the special case? You're going to have to switch those signs. So now I'm going to go ahead and change my signs real quick. That's the first thing. And I'm going to go ahead and start canceling stuff out. My 2 5s in the center cancel out, so x is left on the inside. And then I have 15 divided by 3 is going to be negative 3, right? And on the other side, I'm going to have 31 over 5. And I'm going to leave it like that. I'm going to have to change it to a decimal in a bit. But for the right, whenever I actually put it on my number line. But for right now, I'm going to keep them like that. That's my answer for the problem. So x is greater than negative 3. And then x, it's smaller or less than 31 over 5, which I'm going to go ahead and give you the decimal. Oh my god, why do I have all this? 31 divided by 5 is going to be 6.2. is greater than x, and x is greater than negative 3. Alright, I just rewrote it so we can actually put it on our number line. So I'm going to go ahead put 0. I know I'm going to have 6.2, and I'm going to have right here negative 3. Now, like I said before, did I forget any? No, yes. You're going to put open circles because of the inequality that I have the line below it, and both of my lines are going to be touching. And that's it. That's my answer. Okay, that's the answer for that one. And we got one final problem that I want you guys to go ahead and think about. It's going to be this one. We're almost done. Okay. I'm going to give you a couple seconds just to figure this one out. Okay, now that you're back, look at this problem. Now, if you remember what we mentioned at the very beginning, right here, your number in front, whenever you have this type of problem, cannot be 0 or negative 1. So guess what? This problem right here is no solution. And we're done. That's it. So that's it. I'm going to try and make the other video a little smaller because I don't have to explain that many stuff. But this is the first one I wanted you guys to look at. And yes, this is just it. So just make sure you try it by yourself. And that's all I want you guys to work on this one.